Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get started just because I want to be careful with time. But as you can see, the title of this live is the book discussion for the Rule Book and User Guide for Healthy Living, and the subtitle is Common Sense for Black Folks Who Are Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired. And it is written by Nana Kwaku Apare, and I hope I'm not butchering Baba's name too bad because it's an excellent book. Um, as I have said before, it's something that I read every year to start off the year to keep me grounded, encouraged, and inspired to go within myself and to uh, really focus on knowing myself more than more every day, right? So I want to talk a little bit about it because it's an excellent book. And unfortunately, if you did not purchase the book years before, you won't be able to get it right now because it's out of print. I had gotten my copy from Amazon and I went and looked and it's out of print. And I did try, to get some to have at Sankofa shop, but again, it's out of print. And that is why we must buy books by Black authors. And we'll be talking about that at the African American Read In later on in this month. So the rule book and user guide for healthy living, it's January, a new calendar year, and most people tend to start focusing on their health during this time of year. And so that's one reason why I wanted to talk about it in January. The first time I talked about it was like in November, toward the end of the year, toward the eating season. November and December, we can put down some groceries, right? And so that was the very first time that I talked about the rule book and user guide. And I had seen this quote and I shared it once before. It said you should read books at different ages and stages in your life because every time you read them, or when you read them at different ages and stages of your life, you get something different. And that is so true because every time I read this book, just like some other classics that I read every year, I get something different. And so yeah, so this one is really good and it just really kind of spoke to my soul this time when I read it. I had posted a couple weeks ago that first sentence in chapter 1, page 1 was more information does not equal more understanding. I hear a lot of people say that we're living in an information age. Yeah, we are. But what does that mean? If you truly understand the information that you're absorbing or that you're reading or what that you're gathering, it should make you want to act. Are we going to act upon our information or are we just going to have the information? Okay. So what I want to do with this book is I want to read the foreword because the foreword was written by one of my favorite people in the world, Baba Imawala Mubarudi. And so I want to read the foreword and then I want to take you through some of the nuggets and gems that are in the book. And then I want to end it with how he tells us we can do better, how we can live better. He gives us some definite uh, solutions to deal with the society that we are currently in. But first, I want to remember some ancestors. Today is January 31st. Today is the day that Jackie Robinson entered the physical realm, and we all know who he was. He, quote, integrated Major League Baseball. And there's a whole bunch to that story that hasn't been told because we all know that he wasn't the best, but they felt that he would be the most receptive and the most uh, I don't even want to say easygoing, but yeah, Satchel Paige was a better player, but we'll get into that at another time. And then tomorrow is February 1st, uh, the beginning of Black History Month, right? And that is the day that Langston Hughes entered the physical realm. Okay, so again, I'm gonna start off by reading the foreword. It's not very lengthy. But I want y'all to listen because the forward sets the tone for the book. So, we as African people have always understood and experienced ourselves holistically. And in this book, African is spelled with a K because it's spelled that way in Kiswahili, the most widely spoken Black language in the world. Okay. By doing this, they're saying that the African way of doing things is a good way. So in the book, throughout the book, African in Africa is spelled with a K. We have never made any meaningful distinctions between our spiritual, psychological, and physical manifestations because they are intimately, inextricably, irrefutably interconnected. To us, the seen and unseen are concretely and intuitively recognized as one energized, creative, indivisible, vital force. The idea that Africans see themselves as being one with the universe is unfathomable to the Yoruba mind, determined to scientifically fragment and polarize everything in the universe. Our unity with the universe is something that we positively know in the timeless, infinite depths of our consciousness, a collective consciousness that rises from our spirit to enlighten our mind and purposefully animate our physical presence. It is a consciousness that could only be created out of this oneness. For Africans, the holistic interpretation of reality naturally instructs and orders the healing process. Our true physicians have never attended to physical symptoms isolated from their mental and spiritual components. We know that one aspect of being cannot be damaged without the others also being damaged. And therefore, there is no healing one without healing the others. Y'all better catch that. No healing one without healing the others. The patient is, is physical, mental, and spiritual, as well as familial and communal. When we become imbalanced, there is no remedying one aspect of our being without attending to the related casual or affected imbalance in the others. Healing the body requires a commit healing of the mind and spirit. Healing the mind requires a committed healing of the body and spirit. And healing the spirit requires a concomitant healing of the body and the mind. The three are always intertwined. Of course, being who we originally are, a people in the love of community, forged in the love of community, forged in the love of community. What ails us is never separated from the community of individuals of whom we are inseparable. It is an extended family, spiritually, physically, and mentally tied. Therefore, the healing of the patient's family/slash community is equally critical to healing the patient's mind, body, and spirit. It is from this fundamental, holistic oriented African truth that Nana Kwaku Opare works and teaches. As a seasoned physician, a healer in the African tradition, Nana knows what we need to heal because he speaks through the medical mind of our ancestors. And because of this grounding and orientation, in this book, he offers sound guidelines for us to recover our health within an African center. It should be noted that seldom do we find a healing talent and African mind in the same person. Even rarer is such an individual who is willing to make the time to explain to a community so unhealthily distanced from our origins how we must approach living if we are to reform to our prime physical, mental, spiritual, and communal existence. Nana is one such healer. Without doubt, he embodies the ancestral truth, and this book closely reflects his vision, mission, and passion for helping to rebuild a whole African people. Imawalamu Barudi. And so that is just the gist of the book. So the book, he goes in and he talks about, we have everything in us to heal our body, but we become so distant from who we are as an African people that we have let other people steer us in a different direction. The allopathic, the standard Western medicine. So he said from an early age, he knew that he wanted to be a doctor because he wanted to be a part of the healing process of African people. And so when he was in medical school, he said that none of the courses dealt with diet and nutrition. None of them. He said maybe one course he heard the word nutrition. Isn't that something? So, and he talks about how they are trained to treat the symptoms of the disease and not the disease itself. And when the body is in the process of healing itself, of restoring itself, you will see things such as a pimple, you'll cough, you'll sneeze, you'll sweat, you'll have a headache. That is the body telling you that something is not functioning correctly. And so what we do, right away is go get some pain reliever to deal with that symptom of what the body is trying to tell us. And so, he said, no one, not even your doctor, should know your body better than you. And that is something that I have taken with me since the first time I read this book, is that no one should know my body better than I do. So if something is not going right, I should be the one that should be able to diagnose that. Of course, there are times when you do have to go get a diagnosis from someone. But again, as he says, these people are, quote, practicing medicine. And he said most of us take better care of our cars than we do our health. Most of us take better care of our cars than we do our health. And then he goes on into a whole spiel about health insurance because we have been led to believe that we are going to, quote, die from something. Sometimes when people find out I don't really eat meat, it's like, well, I do because we're going to die from something. And he was like, what kind of mind would have us think that way? And why are we thinking that way? Why do we think that we're going to have to die for something? Why can't we have a great quality of life, right? But that's going to require us doing something. And most of us don't eat to live, we live to eat. So a lot of times our everything functions around eating, right? Food. I know I'm planning some events, and one of the events that I'm planning for Black History Month is a Taste of Soul. And so I know that people will probably come out because we're going to have some food. Every gathering is centered around food. And remember, it's not centered around the right type of food. No. So, I know one year we had a couple of vegan events, and the students, they liked it, they enjoyed it, and I just enjoy it myself. And when we have something at the center, if Sister Catherine brings something, it's going to be vegan. So we always have a vegan option. And so we have been led to believe that vegan is more expensive, or eating better, I should say eating better. Eating better is more expensive, uh, and that it is time consuming, and that you have to have your protein. But in this book, he makes it quite clear. So people who want to eat better, we tend to migrate toward the processed food. And if you're eating a diet of processed food, you're going to feel like trash anyway. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, uh, what you normally eat, chicken nuggets and things of that nature, or if it's some processed vegan food, it's still processed. And so you're not getting the nutrition that you need. And one thing that I have committed myself to is cooking more whole foods. So, like, I've been buying beans. I've been buying brown and black rice. Been around a lot of veggies and fruits. Been trying to juice more, and so I have noticed peak in my energy. I haven't eaten out. Let's see, since probably the end of December when I went to visit my son, and so I've been cooking a lot more. That break that we had for the snow, I cooked every day, and me and my grandbaby we enjoyed that. And so it's not very time consuming. Most days I come home and I whip up something right quick. Yesterday I fixed the zucchini dish. And so you just have to kind of plan what you're going to cook. And sometimes you can do some prep work at night. I love beans because you can throw those in the slow cooker. And then black beans are so versatile. I have black bean soup one day, and the next day I have black bean burgers. And one time I made some black bean enchiladas, y'all, and they were like off the chain. So anyway, uh, I want to go into the book a little bit more, and there's a chapter titled "Not So Common Sense." So he goes on to say or write, if you have been giving something of value, show your appreciation and take care of it. If we took care of our money like we do our health, we would be flat broke. Health is our only true wealth. So here are some common sense things. If you are tired, rest. So, we live in a society where people want us to believe that being busy is the thing to do, right? It's a sign of something. I'm just busy all the time. I'm busy. And so not getting enough rest will affect you because you'll make some terrible decisions if you're tired. You'll eat anything, you'll say anything, you do anything most of the time if you're tired. Okay. If you are weak, exercise. And so I know a lot of people think, well, I can't, how can I exercise if I don't have the energy to do it? Sometimes you just have to push through, right? Sometimes you have to just push through and then you will gain that energy. You'll see how much it revitalizes you once you do it. What I've been doing, I've been following this guy on YouTube, Dr. Saleko. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he has some really nice, quick video workouts, aerobic type deals that I've been doing for the last month. And then I've also been doing yoga every day. Before I go to work, I do a quick 10-minute yoga routine. And it's really made a difference on how I breathe. And that in turn has made a difference in my energy level. So most of us, as Sister Mila often says, most of us are shallow breathing. And so once you start taking deep breaths and really learn how to breathe, you'll notice you'll have more energy, right? And so if you haven't already, subscribe to Sister Mila's YouTube channel. Okay. So then he says, if you are stiff, stretch. And again, I said I've been doing yoga and it really has helped me in that area because as we age, the stiffness will set in, especially down here in my lower back. But the yoga has really helped because I do follow this young lady, Yoga with Bird, and she does a lot of stretching and she does a lot of meditation and mindfulness in her practice. And so I really have been enjoying that for the last 2 months. I've been doing that. If you are hungry, eat. Now, clearly, he's not talking about all this garbage that we are normally eating. He's talking about whole foods, fruits, vegetables, grains, and nuts and things of that nature. But a lot of times when we are hungry, we're thirsty, right? And so you want to make sure you drink enough water. At our wellness session Sunday, Sister Catherine did an awesome presentation on water. And she informed us that we're supposed to, and the Sister Mila does too, that you're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day. And if you can't get that much in, you can start off with 64 ounces a day. So so make sure you get your water in. If you have too much on your mind, stop thinking. And that's one reason why I prefer to do my yoga practice in the morning because it's also a meditation practice. And so it helps me slow down, and think about what it is that I have to do that day, right? And really get my day organized in my head so I don't feel so overwhelmed and I won't have issues with anxiety. So that goes hand in hand with us wanting to make it feel like we're busy all the time, which causes a lot of anxiety and leads to depression. So make sure you slow down and meditate and get your breathing in check. Okay. So he says, if you feel full, you will have bowel movements if you eat right. So that's what that is. So a lot of times, we get constipated, and that's because we're not eating proper foods. And so you really want to pay attention to how your body is expelling waste. You want to make sure that you have a movement every day, especially after you eat. Now, I've heard many people say, and he even says it here in his book, is that after you eat, you should have a bowel movement if you are in alignment with your body's constitution. And that's something that I really pay particular attention to, because I am, going through some changes with my body as I age, and I'm finding that my body is holding on to a lot of weight around the middle, water, things of that nature. So I really try to make sure that I'm eating correctly so that I can do that. He says if it's white, don't bite. White sugar, white flour, white salt, white potatoes, cocaine, white aspirin, white milk, white rice, white bread, so on and so forth. And so we've heard that many times before, but he restates it in his book. Nobody can heal you but you, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so those are the common sense got rules. But then he goes on and gives us 5 adages for healthy living. Okay. The doctor cannot drink the medicine for the patient. And he starts every chapter with an African proverb that I love. So he says, if you can remember the first rule, the first adage for healthy living, you can forget the rest. And the first rule is don't get sick. Now, I know many of us think that's impossible, but if you eat better, if you move more, if you eat the right things, if you're giving your body what it needs, then you probably won't get sick. But you got to know how to get rid of the toxins that are all around us as well. So I implore you to do some research. Sister Catherine gave us some excellent information Sunday. She said cilantro is good. She also said that turmeric is good for inflammation. Man, I love that I have people in my life that can give me information that I need, right? So number one rule is don't get sick. Number two is if you do get sick, don't go see anyone. Now I know that that is hard for us to do because we have medical centers and hospitals and emergency rooms and doctors all around us. But sometimes you don't even have to go to a doctor. I know I was having some problems. I called Sister Catherine. I was like, Sister Catherine, can you help me such and such? Then I called Brother Malik. Brother Malik, do you have an herb that can do such and such? There are people around us that can give us alternative medicine that we in herbal and holistic treatment. You don't have to put those drugs in your body that your liver, your kidneys, and in other organs had to process. So if you get sick, don't go see anyone, right? Number 3, if you go see someone, don't go see an MD. He says allopathic, standard Western medicine, despite its huge complex body of knowledge and its often incomprehensible terminology and technology, even to those who practice it, is actually quite simple. Basically, it's like this, with some exceptions. The symptom is the problem. So most doctors are only going to treat your symptoms, and then you have to go back. And now people are putting the information about how the pharmaceutical companies are big businesses and all that sort of thing. So you better believe, you better believe that they work hand in hand with the doctors. I mean, how many times have you been in the doctor's office and you've seen the pharmaceutical salespeople come through? And sometimes the doctor will give you free samples, things of that nature. So just be very mindful. And then he says, if you do go see an MD, don't go see a surgeon, because he says that the first thing that a surgeon is going to want to do is operate, because there is a lot of money tied into doing surgical procedures. But he says if you go see a surgeon, don't go see one at a teaching hospital. And so, right up the street, we had the University of Tennessee Medical, all these medical complexes are in one area because they all use these student residencies to practice, right? And so he just goes into so much detail with that. And I'm not going to read all that, but there are the 5 adages. Um, he says, don't get sick. If you do get sick, don't go see anyone. If you go see someone, don't go see an MD. If you see an MD, don't go see a surgeon. And if you see a surgeon, don't see one at a teaching hospital. Now, he does not speak against not going to the doctor, but he is just teaching us that we have everything that we need within ourselves to heal ourselves. We just have to get back to using our common sense and our ancestral memory. So he has life rules for human beings. He says we must breathe properly, we must drink water, we must rest, sleep, and dream. Now, one thing that I found interesting, he says that you will know that you're well rested if you have nightmares. I had never heard that before in my life, and I can't remember. He said, let me see what he says. Yeah, he says dreaming is also important. During dream time, we are often given messages from the divine. It is a time when we process toxic unconscious thoughts, feelings, and images that have been absorbed during the day or earlier in life. It is a time when premonitions are received that are later interpreted as deja vu. How can you tell whether you get enough sleep? You will have bad dreams during the night. You can wake up in the morning spontaneously and have no need for alarms or stimulants. You go through the day alert and attentive. And so that's me. I hardly ever have to have an alarm. I just wake up. And one thing that I am adamant about is getting enough rest because uh, not having enough rest, as I stated earlier, you make bad decisions, poor decisions, and you just don't function properly if you don't get enough rest. Okay. We must eat wisely, individualized to our body constitution. And so that's one of the reasons why the diet, food and diet and nutrition industry is so huge, is because we're constantly looking for an easy way. And all we have to do, the easy way, is to know your body and know what you need to put in it, know what you need to fuel it. So, there are some things that I just can't eat, because I noticed that my body has adverse effect, right? And so just knowing your body's constitution, and knowing what it is that you can tolerate and cannot will really be beneficial to you. We must perform certain acts we call hygiene. Now he elaborates on that. He says that it's not that we're not clean, it's that we're not consistent. And so he says that's one reason why so many sickness uh is passed on, is because we're not being consistent with our hygiene. And then uh we are just doing everything, being out of everywhere among all kind of people, and that's not what we should be doing. We must not poison ourselves, and that's with the sugar, that's with the caffeine that he talks about. These legal quote drugs. We must move our bodies wisely, individualized to our body constitutions. Again, know your body, because there are some things that you may not be able to do that someone else is doing because you admire them, you want to look like them, then you try that too. And I know that's the kind of society that we live in. You see someone that looks like, what do you do? What do you do? And I had to stop that a long time ago because I found that there were some things that I couldn't do. I can jog, but I don't know if I can run. I have, but I don't know. Maybe one day it'll be my body's constitution, right? We must expose ourselves to the sun. And so, a lot of times we'll hear people say, stay out the sun. I have a book on my shelf that says don't play in the sun, but it's a book about colorism. But anyway, a lot of times we think we don't need the sun, but sun is a great source of vitamin D, and it helps process other things that our body needs to be healthy. We must engage in complementary relationships with others. And so a lot of times when you think about the relationships, we think about the romantic type, but we need healthy relationships. We need sisterhood, we need the brotherhood, we need friends, we need that communal living, and we need interaction because we are a social people, right? And so a lot of times we live in, I hear people say, well, my circle's so small, it's just me. That is not healthy. And that is why, in my assessment, so many of our people are suffering with mental health disorders because we are isolating ourselves from what it is that we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be engaging with one another. So get you some healthy relationships, not this stuff, this toxic stuff. So many people, you know, are doing now. We want healthy, excuse me, sound relationships. Excuse me. We must, through knowledge of self, respect, align, and harmonize ourselves with the natural world. We must live in the practice of ma'at. And so, a lot of times we follow other people who don't practice ma'at. When I was reading at the beginning the forward by Baba Mwalimu Barudi, one of the things that he said was, the society, we are not that. And I think that is what's causing so many problems because this society is about competition. Urugu is about competition. Everything is a competition. You got man versus woman. You got man versus nature. And we aren't that. We know that everything has a balance. We balance each other out. We don't compete so we can have the power so that we can oppress somebody else. No, we live in balance and harmony with the universe and with nature. We must connect with our God essence into our ancestral wisdom through spiritual work and practice. And so that spiritual work, I assess, is a personal thing. I don't like to walk around, talking about what I do and how I connect to the spiritual world because that's mine. It's private, right? It should be reflected though in my life. We must participate in the growing and raising of the children. And so we moved from that. Fortunately, I grew up in a small town and I grew up in a community in a village. And if you know me, I talk about this all the time because that community and that village shaped me and it helped me. It kept me safe. It was a safe space. Now we don't even like our children to go outside and play. Why? Because we don't have that community anymore, right? We don't feel that your child, that we should be take care of somebody else's child, looking at their, no, that ain't mine. Yeah, get your, no, those children belong to us. They are a gift. They are a blessing. And we have to get back to that community mindset, to our ecosystem, having the elders, having the warrior class, having the children, and all working together to build a strong community. Okay. We must actively reclaim our Africanity and culture. Woo! So there's this thing, my youngest daughter and I had this conversation about Black culture. So people are defining Black culture as the ratchet aspects, right? As the ratchet aspects of Black life. That is not Black culture. Black culture is what I just read: community, healthy relationships, ma'at, living in harmony and with nature and the universe. That's Black culture. And that's what we have to make sure is portrayed and what's being taught. We must have a habitual practice of loving kindness. And that's something that I've seen deteriorate just working with young adults. I work on a community college campus. And so a lot of times if I see another Black woman, they will turn their head, look down, or act like they don't see me just so they won't have to smile and speak. And ladies, We look so much better when we smile. It costs nothing to smile and be kind. What is this? I don't know. It's not cute to have an attitude and walk around with a frown and all these things. We got to do better. We must engage in right livelihood. So those are some of the things that we don't have to do, y'all. And as I said when I started the show, if y'all didn't get this book when I first talked about it about 6 years ago, whew, I don't know, because he does go on and he lists the principles of Ma'at in the book as well. And he goes into more detail about what I just read, those principles. Hey, greetings, Brother Mitchell. Glad you could join me. And so he goes on and talks about alkaline versus acid diet, because that's a big thing. And I won't go into detail about that, because again, it just goes with what he says about your body's constitution, and that the body is capable of keeping itself in balance. So we just have to make sure that we give it the right fuel to do that. And then he has a whole chapter dedicated to have you got the T for beef. And he talks about how in the animal kingdom, how they eat their food and how their body is constituted to process that food, because most of the time the animals in the wild, they go for the intestines and the stomach first. And so they had to have certain things in their body's constitution to deal with those parasites that they're eating. And so he then goes on to talk about the mad cow and how he feels that it's all related to dementia and Alzheimer's. And that comes from eating the beef, right? And so I gave up beef a long time ago, right after I gave up pork. But again, I'm not forcing or dictating that lifestyle or being dogmatic in my way of eating, but just be mindful. Be mindful that these are some things, especially now, how they are processing meat, how they are growing animals. Is something. If you have Netflix, there's a great docu series. We Are What We Eat, the twin experiment, where they follow three sets of twins. It's four sets of twins. Four sets of twins. They're the twins that are from South Africa, and then they're the twins that are live in New York, and then they have the Asian twins, and then they have white males. But it's really good because what they want to do is trace and see how diet affects health. And so they do all these tests. But what's even more interesting is they go into detail about the meat industry, and they go into detail about the cattle market, also the pig industry, and how they are poisoning the black residents out there in North Carolina. They talk about the chickens, how one man, he was a big chicken farmer, but he went and he started growing mushrooms because he was so disgusted with it. And how when they tell us something is grass fed or organic, it's a play on words. He said they could tell you that a chicken is grass fed or eggs come from grass fed chickens, and all they had to do is let the chicken sit out there, go outside, and peck around for 5 minutes. So it's all a play on words. And it was like, yeah. So one of my cousins who recommended that we watch it, she was like, I'm done. I'm going back to being my vegan lifestyle. And we had gone on vacation last summer, and she had this really, really bad cough. We didn't know what it was. She didn't know. She had been to the doctor and everything. And she said once she transitioned back to the vegan lifestyle, that cough was gone within a week. So she feels strongly that it was the dairy that was causing that mucus buildup and causing her to cough. So it really does make a difference, y'all. Yeah. Brother Mitchell, I need to check out Food Inc. I really do. And Sister Sylvia, thank you for tuning in, because this is good information, and it will make you rethink some things about what it is that we do on our day to day. I know I do. And one thing that I'm not going to do though is beat up on myself. I'm just going to take it one day at a time and make every day a better day. So, the last part of the book, he says all these things come about because guess what? We are in the matrix, right? We are living in the matrix. The matrix tells us what to think about and gives us information that it wants us to use in forming our thoughts. And so this is the most excellent part of the book for me, because he says, what does the matrix look like? So I want to share my screen again. Let's see if I can get to it. Here it is. So this is the matrix. I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Hold on. So the principal characteristics of the matrix, and he says he has adapted these from our great master teacher, Baba Amos Wilson. He has desacralization, amnesia, pathological anxiety, active multiple addictions, delusion, apathy, denial, alienation. And so, and he'll go on and he'll talk about what those look like. Okay. But I want to look at a couple of them. I want to look at pathological anxiety, um, which a lot of people suffer from. I know where I am, where I'm employed, there's a disability office, and a lot of the students, especially they said they seen an uptick in it after COVID. Because why? Because we are stuck in this matrix and everybody's telling us you got to do this, you got to be this, you got to have that. And so it causes us to have anxiety because we don't, right? One thing that I noticed when I stopped watching so much TV was that I stopped spending, I didn't spend as much money. I wasn't worried as much about my uh what I was wearing, if it was this or how I looked. I was comfortable, more comfortable with myself, when I started watching TV, start watching so much TV. Because if you're watching a lot of TV, you're looking at these women perfectly made up, beautiful hair, every hair in place, dressed to the nines, and you want to look like that, right? And so if you don't, it makes you feel some type of way about yourself. And so that will cause all kind of mental problems, mental health problems, right? And then we had the apathy, the apathy, right? We don't even care as long as me and mine are good. Or now we've become so immune to things that we don't even, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they arrested a 10-year-old for peeing outside. All right, okay, what's next? Oh, they went in and they assaulted one of our good brothers in the community. The police assaulted him and did an illegal search and seizure in his home. Okay, well, what's next? It's like we don't even care about our brothers and sisters anymore, right? And then we live in a denial. We live in this denial, like, well, it ain't happening to me. It ain't happening. If it ain't happening to me, it ain't happening. Is that how what we doing now? Yeah. But then he goes on and he gives us remedies on how to deal with this matrix. First, you gotta know you in it. What they say, first thing you gotta do is admit that there's a problem. So you have to accept that we are in the matrix. He says, educate our own children. Man, I can't say that enough. We got to start educating our own children, right? Avoid and or minimize exposure to the carrier signal, that TV, that mass media, and I think if he were to write an updated edition of the book, he'd probably put in there social media. Because again, I work with young adults and this is all they do all day, all day. Some of them don't even look up and say hello because they're looking at their phone. And now it's all of us, right? It ain't just the young folks. And he says we also need to get away from that TV and music, popular music. Refocus on active re-Africanization. Adopt African spiritual practices. Regular encounters with spirit is key. We need to build our own businesses. Learn and use African languages. I love Kiswahili. Refrain from social contact with Europeans. So, a lot of us work with them, but that don't mean we got to hang out with them because you'll find yourself doing some crazy stuff sometimes, things that you know ain't right. There are things that we're doing as Black people that we know we should be doing, but that assimilation and that desegregation is doing the number. Read African writers who are all about our liberation. Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Chris Wilson, got a whole shelf full of them. Baba Imawala Mubarudi, and many others. I know Mitchell Guest has a great library, so I already know he's reading. Avoid drugs of all kinds, including legal drugs such as alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, and sugar. And I gotta admit that nicotine, because I like a cup of coffee, and green tea has a little caffeine in it too. So yeah, I gotta step back from some of that so much. And care for your body, mind, and spirit temple in accordance with the rule book and user guide. Woo! Yes. So that's a lot of information I know. So hopefully there'll be a new edition. There is a new edition being printed. I hope, because this is one of the best books I have in my library. And like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, I read it every year, just so I can get back grounded into who I am. So yeah, so that is our book for January. And again, if you watched last month, I did make some announcements that I want y'all to read Black with me all year. I'm at home. I'm not at the culture center. I just couldn't make that trip. I had to help my granddaughter with her reading board. So I decided to just take it easy and stay at home. But I do want to share with y'all some of the events that we have coming up at the Cultural Center. Um, this is, y'all, we on Black History Month Eve, and I know a lot of people um feel, of course, we Black 365 24/7, of course. But as a student of Barbara Carter G. Woodson, I will always celebrate Black History Month just because I'm a student of Barbara Carter G. Woodson, and I want to keep his legacy alive. And especially now in this political uh, frame that we're living in, the current political climate that we're living in, we definitely need to be celebrating Black History Month and turning it up a notch this year, because taking it out of our schools, controlling the narrative, just like they did when Carter G. Woodson was here. Just that's why he was so adamant about making sure our story is included in the history of this country. I have Fugitive Pedagogy over there on my shelf. Y'all need to read it or listen to it, because it is a thorough analysis of how Dr. Carter G. Woodson came into being and came into giving us Black History Week, which later evolved into Black History Month, and the purpose. They were teaching Black history all throughout the year too. But February is when they turned it up, is when they had the programs, is when they celebrated everything that they learned throughout the school year. February was when they showed off all that knowledge. We show it off too, but we need to show it off in a way that's going to be beneficial to our future and to our today. So, yeah, we got some things going on. As you can see, we have, hold on, I want to share each flyer. Now, we have the challenge, the Black History Month challenge. So I'll be posting these again tomorrow, and every day is a different challenge. So tomorrow, since it's Langston Hughes day, read a poem by Langston Hughes or someone that was significant or some artist in the Harlem Renaissance. And then Friday, find a person in Black history that you share your birthday with. Y'all, I share my birthday with George Jackson. I share my birthday with Mary Church Terrell. I share my birthday with Ray Charles. I share my birthday with John Coltrane. It's a cool thing to do is to find somebody that you share your day with. So these are just some things that I want us to do throughout the year. I think one day there's a make a donation to Ashe Academy. And then the last day on the 29th, commit to celebrating Black history all year long. So yeah, so we're gonna be doing this Black History Month challenge. I'm excited about it. We did it a couple years ago, and I wanted to bring it back this year. Like I said, 2024, we need to be turning it up because this political climate, we should have the audacity to turn it up, right? And then, did y'all know that Asala, the organization that Carter G. Woodson founded in 1915, that they have a theme every year? Did y'all know that? I was like, I learned that like maybe 3 years ago. I don't know if Brother Obafemi is on, but we were talking about that the other day, how we did not know that there was a theme for Black History Month until a few years ago. And this year is African Americans and the arts. And so that covers a wide range of things. You know, we got the culinary arts, we got entertainment, we got folk tales, we got literature, we got all kinds of things that can go in the art. And then I learned something else when I was doing the research for it. There is this art called Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism. It really is kind of like science fiction because when you look at some of the artists that are recognized in the Afrofuturism category, you do have the Octavia Butlers, you have the K.M. McKinney, I think her name is. She says, "What about a Black Future Month?" So yeah, it's really cool. Go to the Asala webpage. I can leave that link in comments when I finish up. But there's a theme every year, and they've been having the thing since like the early 1900s, like 1929, I think. So every year there's a theme for Black History Month. So if you didn't know that, now you know, right? And so, and we'll also be having hosted the African American Read-In, February the 25th, 1 o'clock at the Cultural Center. And that's going to be virtual too, because I know some people won't be able to come to Coldwater, but we're going to be reading a passage from a favorite book authored by African American. And so, the African American Read-In, it was founded by an elder at the University of Memphis. And what she wanted to do was bring attention to our writers because, like I said, this book is out of print. And that's one reason is because Black authors' books don't stay in print as long as mainstream authors, right? Unless they're very, very popular. So we want to bring attention to African American writers, Black writers, and I will be focusing on 2 books that I read every February. And if you've been following me for the last 3 or 4 years, you know that I love some complementarity by Baba Imawala Mubarudi and The Miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Woodson. Both of them are still highly relevant, highly relevant. So I'll be talking about these at the Read-In and also on my Read Black with Me broadcast, which I think I'm going to do that the last day of the month, the 29th. So if you don't have these books, please go to Akabin House and order your copy of Complementarity, and then you can get your copy of The Miseducation of Negro from Senkoba Soul Shop. So yeah, so that's what we got coming up. And again, I'm gonna tell y'all again, turn it up for Black History Month 2024. We learn all year round, right? But we celebrate that knowledge. We act on that knowledge in February. And again, in this political climate, we need to be turning it up every day. but really turn it up. What's that meme that says I'm black every day, but in February I'm black. That is me. So yeah, so I have things going on at the library, and then I have things going on in the community as well. And um, let me tell y'all that every week I meet with children. I say they are scholars because they are. Every week we read. We read. We just finished up Voice of Freedom, Fannie Lou Hamer, and we had so many rich, robust conversations because the parents are coming on and we're all having reading, even the parents, and we're having some really good conversations. And starting Tuesday, we're going to be reading Carter Reads the Newspaper. And so that's a book about Carter G. Woodson. And so we'll be learning about that great ancestor as well. So I want to thank everyone who supports us because we did a campaign. We're still running that campaign. We're asking for a commitment to donate $10 a month to Ashe Academy so that we can reach more children. We had Saturday school Saturday, and we talked about the Great Migration, and it was really good. The scholars read the book, The Great Migration, by the artist. His name escapes me, but he was the painter during the Harlem Renaissance. Jacob Lawrence, that's his name, and he painted pictures to represent the Great Migration because his family was part of that first wave. And then he wrote the book to go with the pictures he painted. So we read that book together, and then we talked about the first wave, where the first Black people migrated to uh, from the South. And then we talked about the second wave. And then they have an assignment that's tied to that. So we're going to be talking about remigration this in February. So I appreciate everyone who helps make that possible for us to reach more scholars because what I did for the Read Black with Me, which kind of filters into Saturday school, is I mailed those scholars that signed up first. They got books. They got copies of the books that we read. So not only are they reading, they have their own library. We're creating and helping them uh, develop a library, their personal library. So I appreciate everyone who contributes to that. So thank y'all for tuning in. Next month, which is tomorrow, today is Black History Month Eve. We're going to be discussing the miseducation of the Negro and complementarity. And they'll probably both be very brief because I don't like to spend too much time on the live. So I don't want to overwhelm anyone. And what I may do is do one week and one the following week. But I really like to revisit both of those books in February. So again, thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a great night. Peace and Black Power.